welcome to the Spirit Hunters podcast. I'm Lance White Eagle, and joining me this evening are
Chrissy,
Hunter,
Brenda,
Lisa,
Shane. Nobody has last names today.
we're all
Smalley at me.
I mean, all but one have the same, so one of these things are not.
And today we will be talking about our investigation at the 3 Park building in Franklinville, New York, which is currently being used as a museum/storage facility for the Franklinville Historical Society.
Ishua
Valley.
Yeah.
Historical Society. Right.
That's the one, them two.
Them two.
You want to talk about our relationship with...
The Ishua Valley Historical Society is one of the little co-ops we have with, the group. We've done the Sidney and B. Robbins house for them, the Katie's house, which we should be doing pretty soon on the podcast for, and then today, or this last weekend, 3 Park building. We're looking at doing other ones for them in the future.
Yeah.
The building was built in 1881. For most of its existence, it was an ice cream shop, and then an ice cream shop, candy store / restaurant. A lot of good times were actually had there, and a lot of Franklinville historic moments.
What?
What? So we were accompanied by
Maggie and Bruce Fredrickson,
Yep.
the town and city historians.
who are quite the troopers. This is the 3rd time they've been
Forced to stay up
stuck
for
with
the
us.
hours.
Yeah. So on most of our investigations, I think most ghost hunting period, you end up going pretty late. And I
Yeah.
think this one we were there till a solid 3 in the
It was
morning,
at least like
Yeah.
and they were hanging tough.
I did see Maggie sleeping a little bit at one point.
Yes,
a little
snoozing
bit.
in the
Yeah.
Up in a
kitchen.
chair.
She tried.
By the end, she was pretty out, and I actually got a little scared because I walked by and I said something to her, and she did not react at all, and I was like, "Is she okay?"
Yeah. I checked her pulse.
Yeah.
And then to make sure.
So we got there and we began to set up all of our equipment, and I think immediately members of our team started having a strange reaction to the building.
Yeah, which I think unique to this place.
Yeah, so Huntman, you want to discuss?
Well, like our feelings.
Yeah, well, as we were setting up.
How do you feel about the podcast?
Yeah,
Yes.
Christine, you want to
How
ask
are you
him?
feeling right now, Hunter?
Are you
little
stressed?
no shit. So yeah, when we got in there, everyone kind of had their own little different types of reactions. Some people got nauseous. Some people just thought it was an overpowering smell, lightheaded, whatever. Me personally felt like I just got hit by a train. I got very fatigued. I literally couldn't even think of what cord belonged to what camera. We have like 15, 20 cameras. And I was getting very irritated. People were getting irritated back with me. And just
Short-tempered, not
very
not
on
be
the
able-
edge.
Synopsis wasn't flowing.
No. And it took me, well, it took a lot of us. I mean, even throughout the whole investigation, we all still felt it. At least some of us felt it at least a little bit. Like, I know you and I were feeling lightheaded for most of the investigation.
Yeah.
But mixed with the heat and the weird
I wouldn't
perfume
even say
smells.
lightheaded, like
Foggy.
disconnected.
Foggy.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
really focus.
Yeah.
And it took me like a good hour and a half at least to get enough to where I could pay attention and realize what I was doing. But
Yeah. Lisa and Mom, you guys had immediate reactions too. You guys want to discuss some of those?
Well, the smell, for some reason, the smell was overpowering for Lisa and I started getting really queasy. So I had it set outside, and you got...
Yeah, I got like an instant migraine, and my stomach felt like I wanted to throw up.
Mhm.
And so while they were all setting up, I was sitting outside.
Lisa and I, on the way there, we were joking around. We felt good,
Yeah.
and happy. As soon as I walked in, my stomach started to roar,
Yeah.
and I was like, what you know. And I noticed I had a short fuse. Matter of fact, I went off to myself and said, reset, you know, because I felt like something maybe, you know, was affecting me. And that was before I realized all you guys were having issues too.
And so this is like the first time where we get to a place, and before we even start investigating, everybody mood was changed at some point. Mm-hmm. You know, we've had like the Mimic House, that was, whatever was there was very negative.
There's things that hit us individually at point, or like the Stone House,
yeah.
like Chrissy and stuff. Yeah, my back. That
well, there's something that to do it to all of us.
Everybody
exactly.
there.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous.
Did you have any negative before we went upstairs? Because like Chrissy is very. What would you say?
Well, I'm very
Blonde?
sensitive to, yeah, that too. But I'm very sensitive to smells. Like, I get migraines sometimes from the lightest, like, perfume scent sometimes. So, like, and I know they were mentioning, like, the super strong perfume smell. And I walked in there and I smelled like, you know, like an old building
That's
kind of.
what I
like,
was, yeah.
But I didn't smell that strong perfume. And if everybody was smelling it, if it was just around, I would have smelled it.
Well,
so that just goes
I
to
didn't
show.
smell the perfume.
No, and the basement smell, like the smell initially, like not even the perfume thing, but just the smell of the building didn't feel.
It smelled
you
like an
weren't
old
being, like,
building.
repulsed by
It smelled like you're in a building with a bunch of old stuff in there.
Antiques.
Which I also think is a little interesting when we get to stuff later.
Mhm.
That, you know, most of the other, well, all the other women in the group for that investigation were repulsed by it.
Yeah.
You not so much.
Repulsed by what?
Ouch,
The
smooth.
overpowering perfume
building
smell?
itself,
Oh,
yeah.
the building.
I
yeah.
smelled the perfume, but not in the beginning. It was
I
when I
didn't
was
like-
setting
No,
up.
no,
Yeah.
just the building smell in general, not the
I
perfume.
Yeah.
didn't like
We
it at all.
just smelled a
Later.
little old and like you
Yeah,
had
well,
a lot of
didn't-
lacquer.
No,
and
I'm just later
wood
on.
finish.
Yeah, I smell chemical smells.
Yeah.
Later on, I did smell a little bit of the perfume smell they were talking about, but not like to the intensity of what they
Yeah.
were smelling.
I just want to put in this real quick for the new TikTok and Facebook guys currently watching. If you have any questions related to the paranormal or what we're doing or anything in between, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We got some moderators watching them. We'll try to answer them as best we can.
Right. If you're curious about how Hunter feels,
Yes.
you know.
So the only thing I noticed when we were setting up is I don't know, like we were getting ready to set up and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go outside for a minute first.
Yeah.
Like just kind of not as
Yeah.
feeling engaged
Just
or whatever.
not there.
Yeah. But then it kind of started to hit us more so, the feeling wise, when we went upstairs. Still in the process of setting up. It's still daylight out.
Yeah.
We've not even started our investigation.
And it hit you first.
Yeah, Chrissy and I went upstairs to set up some equipment and check on the equipment.
So
And
do you
we
want to
were-
explain what it looks like upstairs so they can kind of picture
Yeah,
it?
it's you go up the stairs and there's a kind of a smaller room at the top of the stairs where they have some old doll houses and dolls stored, and then that leads into a really
Big.
large,
Really
open,
large and long.
well, it must have been like a store space,
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
like a very just long open area.
They said at
but-
one point in time there was somebody who made like saddles and horseshoes and stuff that was up in that top floor building.
That would make sense. You
Yeah.
need the space. Yeah.
Original thing was it was a harness shop.
Oh, yeah. So it must have been their display floor,
Right.
you know. But there's all kinds of things piled in that storage for the historical society because they're not like the upstairs isn't open to the
And
public.
you really do have a lot of great antiques. We should say.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them.
So this big open room is kind of broken down into two aisles.
Thank you for the follow.
Run down the length of the building, and we were monitoring this device over here
Big
by
tracker.
my brother. We were looking at the screen, making sure that was working, and then I got up to walk down the aisle
Well,
way.
you kind of, I think it's because we were seeing something. That was tracking. What it does is it sends out a laser grid and it tracks like movement within the grid. And we were seeing stuff like near the top where something was like almost taking up like the whole part and moving. So like he went to go see like, okay, well where do I stand and where do I register on
Yeah,
this thing?
that's
And that's
right.
why I was still looking at it. I was on the floor and you
Mhm.
were walking ahead.
And I got about a little better than halfway down this aisle, and started to feel extremely lightheaded and like on the verge of passing out, which is not something common for me necessarily. I didn't attribute it to anything at that moment. I just thought, whew, like, I need to sit down, and went and got the office chair that was down there and sat in it. And while I was sitting there, you started to come down.
Then I got up and I started to walk towards you, and I don't even think I knew that you got lightheaded. I don't even.
No, I think I just told you I got to sit down a minute.
Yeah, you didn't even. So I'm walking down, and all of a sudden I get like maybe like 15 feet or so away, and it just hits me. Like it's like this vertigo. Like the room is spinning. Like I felt detached from my body almost, and just like, just this weird sense, and I immediately stopped, and like I think I grabbed onto something. I felt like I was gonna pass out, and I just kind of stood there, and I'm like, whoa. And I remember, I think you might have got up and come and like helped me sit down, but I had to sit down for a while because it just got so like intense that I just felt like.
So then like when you smell something gross, you have to get everybody else to participate. So we called all the group up one by one
to test, like walk through here. What do you feel?
Lisa, do you recall what you got when you came up? Because you came up first.
Yeah, I came up with the SLS camera though, and so you guys had instructed me to walk down the one side because I was going to walk down the other side, and you're like, no, go down the other side. So I came down that side, and you said just to keep walking and then stop when I feel something. But I had stopped because I picked up a figure on the SLS camera. Hi, Jeannie.
Yeah. So standing about where she didn't get to the spot we did, but in that spot was
the figure.
There was something there, and then my legs got kind of like tingly. But I mean, other than that, I didn't feel like I was dizzy or anything. But
and then the next one to come up was Shaney.
Yes. Now, when I went up there,
did you even tell them what you guys experienced beforehand?
No,
that's what I thought.
I just walked in there.
Which we didn't want to influence. You know.
All of a sudden, I felt like this real heaviness on my chest, like couldn't breathe, and almost like the air around me was constricting. Constricting on my chest.
And this was the same spot.
Yeah. And I felt like I was going to topple over. But I gotta say, I stayed there, and then 3-4 minutes later, it dissipated.
Yeah. Whatever was in this,
I think Grandma
was the next one.
Oh, by the way, Jeannie, you're just getting in. We're talking about 3 Park Square in Franklinville.
You want to
ask any questions you have?
Talk about yours. So Mom came up next, and Mom is sensitive to stuff in general. Yeah. And I took you over there. You want to talk about what you felt in that area?
Yeah. Jerk's face said, "Stand right here."
That jerk face, not jerks.
So I was standing there, and I felt like I was going to pass out. And I stumbled, and Lance went to grab me, and my whole body was just clammy.
Yeah, like cold
and I
sweat.
thought I was going to throw up.
The only thing she says,
I said, "Get out!
I don't like this.
Get me out of here! Got to get out."
It seems to that it affected all of us a little bit in different ways. But who was it? Was it Tom that also had he felt like the pressure on his chest?
Something, yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
At one point in time, I can't remember. I think it was after being upstairs. It was when we were outside. I remember I was like I was breathe. It felt like somebody put like a 10-ton weight on my chest, and it was just this heavy
weird feeling because it wasn't like somebody pushing on you. It just felt like everything just was closing in.
Just everything was like really tight and whatever. It was after being upstairs when we came outside because we were like, okay, we need to like get some fresh air and whatever. And I was just like, kind of deep breathing.
I don't recall having any fogginess before then, but after then, it was like, until we left, I don't know, you just couldn't.
Like something like all the wires weren't connected.
Yeah,
there's like short in there somewhere.
Whatever words and
It was really.
And we weren't expecting it. This was a happy place, not
Well,
so we thought it was happy. Right?
It was very disorienting.
Also, we mentioned, and I forgot to mention it to you, that I feel like all of us, the males who were in there, kind of had a different reaction.
Yeah.
Because I was talking, I came over Tuesday. Right? And that, you know, like, you just felt agitated. Like Shane said, on edge, everything was a little more annoying than it normally would be.
Literally, especially the beginning. And keep in mind, Hunter was a little rough in the beginning, too.
You ain't got to say all that.
You said you were off.
I kept having these, I'm like, smack some. I mean, that's how and I've been like, what's going on? You know, then I have to, like, remake myself think, you know, and say things in a nicer way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was weird. And I should say, too, I did smell that perfume. But with me, it was so strong, all of a sudden, that I could taste it. It was really gross. And then the other 5 people that were there for a little bit, that weren't part of our group, they all smelled and tasted it too.
Yeah. I did taste it at one point walking through like that.
Well, see, I was about to say, that's like your spot that you guys were feeling upstairs, and the perfume, I didn't get either one of those. No. But then again...
See, I got the perfume right off the bat.
Yeah, well, I did smell like whatever that funky smell in there was, but I think by the time we were upstairs, my stuff had already hit so hard, maybe I just didn't notice it.
Yeah, you were already in there.
I didn't smell, I wouldn't say perfume, but it was a smell that wasn't normal to that building.
This was definitely different than the other surrounding smells. There was some, you know, we said a little bit, lacquered smell in the building with the old smell.
Which I kind of like.
But the perfume was very distinctive, old. You could just tell it was an older
it wasn't
perfume.
no that newer fragrance
modern thing.
But when I was talking about the movie, like I think it was when we were looking at the tracker, you had just said something like innocuous, like, oh, maybe it's picking up this, and like, I don't know, I just feel like I almost like was jerky for no reason, like obviously.
Yeah.
You know, but then like I caught myself beforehand, and I was like, "What?
Why did I act like that?"
Yeah. I didn't say. I caught myself before, you know, but I was like, "Why am I feeling like, you know, like there's no reason to be snippy?"
Yeah.
You know, it's just. And I was wondering because I don't think we. Huh?
I said, "Welcome to the dark side."
Yeah. Did any of you 3 ladies have any like emotion like reactions like that? Because all 3 of us, when we were talking,
angry-ish,
we were saying we felt like.
Well, remember we were talking about
Hunter did mention like you were more passive than usual.
Yeah,
it seems
you
like.
were. Yeah, you were more just like agreeing like.
Not agreeable.
No, no. Like she was just more
like
willing
Hunter
to
mentioned like like some. Instead of where you question a lot of things, like, oh, you do that, you're like,
in a good way.
What should we do with, but instead you were just like, when Hunter was like, oh, you just went along with
Remember when we were upstairs
and
we were setting up
that seems a little odd for
us. We were setting up this stuff and we were doing some of the other cameras. You're like, well, should this go over here? And I was like, well, I want to do this first. And you were just like, okay. Usually you'll be like, well, maybe we do it this way. Yeah. Which, even
when we were watching the video on her downstairs, she was like that. She was just much more amiable. Not that you're not over. No. But,
passive.
Different.
And I think that may lead into we'll talk about later.
And I didn't, other than when Lisa was in the basement with us, I didn't really have much interaction during the investigation with you. And I definitely didn't have anything with you. So I wouldn't know how they were.
Yeah.
Lisa was a little more energetic in the basement, I knew that.
I was gonna say, I don't think it affected me. I'm crabby all the time anyways. So.
Well, everybody was getting on my nerves, but I didn't feel mad.
Well, no,
but
that's what we're talking about.
Like, I was like,
sure.
This is a stupid place. I hate this place.
Yeah.
We're not getting anything.
Why are we doing it this way?
Why are we here?
Let's just do it this way,
Why are those people here?
Just agitated.
Yeah, and I could tell a little bit with her because she mentioned at least 5 times in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I haven't got any. I've been scanning. I haven't got it. I'm like.
Like we just got here. It's still daylight out. We haven't started yet.
I scanned every part of that building and got nothing, so I was convinced there was nothing.
Well, that's what you should do.
Yeah. Right in the beginning.
Yeah. And you should get nothing because then later when you get some. But even when she was getting stuff, she was like, I'm not getting anything. And I'm like,
yes, you are.
You're getting answers to questions cameras right now.
There's a cat ball flashing right in front of you.
On command.
I also want to mention one of our members, Tom, who's not here with us now. I don't think it was it originally. He said beginning he started to feel a little irritated or toothache too. Yeah,
He's not so much irritated. He just all of a sudden he got a really nasty, painful toothache.
yeah,
That kind of set him back for a good hour.
yeah.
You know.
And Tom's one of our like non-stop investigators. He just is constantly going off on his own or with groups and just doing investigations.
Yeah, I think that was the first time. Tom's been with us on how many investigations now?
7, I think.
Several. Yeah.
I think he said 6 or 7.
I think this was the first one. We came in from a break. And usually we go outside to take a break. Like Tom just stays in and just does his thing.
Yeah.
And we came in and he was actually just sitting on the stairs, like kind of with his head down.
Yeah.
Like I'd never seen him like just be like hanging, doing nothing.
But like he said, he had an excruciating toothache, which out of nowhere, and he did. I think he was on the phone to say he did kind of sense a mood change in himself as well, but didn't act on it like we did.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Of course, he's
He
also
come outside the one time. I noticed too, like even with Hunter, when he was outside for a while, that's when he started feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I would, we'd go out for a smoke break or whatever, that's when I did actually feel a little bit more like myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you get really re-energized, and then you go back in, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. But and Hunter's never really, I don't know. Usually whenever I make a joke to you or something, even if you're feeling bad, you like,
Chuckle.
but like you were sitting in the car and I was like, you need a hug? And you're like, no.
Yeah. So
And I was like, oh, all right. All right, buddy.
when being irritated was an understatement. I was really peed off at a lot of stupid little things that shouldn't have made me angry.
well, I'm peed off because Lance never gives me hugs.
I tried to all the time and he tried to punch me in the...
He saw that I felt like I was dying in the truck. I was like, and he's like, oh, he's rubbing my stomach. You want a hug? I said, no.
You don't try to hug. You just touch people inappropriately. Hi, brother.
Don't make it weird. Like
that?
he doesn't do it the weird way. He's just
Yeah.
I do.
So anyway, before we get to our stuff, what was some of the first things we
that was
actually...
later on in the night. So.
Yeah, that was towards the end. Some of the first things we started to get.
When I first came up the steps, it was when we were still setting up. That's when I felt something kind of like brush my arm. It was kind of just this light, like it was creepy, like gave you goosebumps, but it was just this light like brush up against my arm. And I was looking around like, are there cobwebs? Like what the heck was that? And I looked all around, there was nothing that would have done that. It was just like, just something kind of like lightly.
Tom had a similar experience on the back of his neck for a long period.
He's cat
Cat
keeps touching me.
Yeah. Should we mention the dolls or like the old antiques that were upstairs? Think that's got any significance to it?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? There were like I said, a lot of antiques, and there was one doll. We'll post a picture of it that was particularly creepy.
Yeah.
Like it didn't register anything. I actually didn't get like a vibe from it, but it was creepy looking.
Well, it's just the eyes almost looked like
Yellow,
glaucoma, weird, and
there was like a really old-fashioned wheelchair, wood and steel.
2 of them.
That was kind of creepy.
Oh, yeah, that
kind of
one.
a creep vibe.
TikTok guys, check out the link in our bio for our Facebook. We'll post a picture of this doll on there.
Yeah.
And some of the videos we've already posted for this investigation.
So you got touched upstairs, like just lightly.
Yeah, just
like where you
lightly
thought it was
brushed.
cobwebs. Tom did. I didn't.
I don't know.
I used to
Maybe.
try to do a rod session early, and
It refused.
you might want to explain how that works a little bit.
Yeah, so what I normally do before I start, I don't just go right out and start asking questions.
Yeah.
I ask permission first.
Always a good idea before whipping your rods out.
And yeah, you gotta ask permission to play with them first.
Yeah.
So I always ask,
Right.
I always ask, can I, may I, should I? And all 3 times, no. And I'm like, okay.
Oh shit.
A couple minutes later, can I now? Whoop, no. So I don't know. I attempted
Listen, you
a few times, and so I put them away.
Mm-hmm.
So I waited, and I think it was, I don't know, a few hours later
At least a few, maybe a little
that I
more.
asked. I guess maybe after everything settled down, and I guess maybe they thought that we weren't a big threat or whatever. And then they were like, okay.
Yeah. And how did that rod session go?
It went all right. I mean, I just did it downstairs, and what I do is I'm like, show me. That's what and then they kind of whipped around, and there's two things. They wanted us to go through paperwork, like the binder and stuff like that. Like there was important stuff or whatever. And we're like, oh, we can't go through the stuff. And they're like, yeah, you can.
Yeah, and I just think this thing was
can't.
very. It kept spiking my little agitation, like we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Because every time she'd ask something, it wouldn't answer unless she went over to that folder.
Yeah.
And it was really just like completely directing everything she did. And if she didn't do what it said,
It's not gonna.
it wasn't going to participate.
Yeah.
It wasn't,
You know?
yeah, and that's what it did.
Yeah.
But then the other part was there's like a treasure chest type of thing, and it had the dolls in.
Yeah, we probably should tell. At first, there was a cat ball on the table about 3 or 4 feet away from Mom, and it started going off. And that's actually, I think, what prompted Lisa to get those out and ask again. And then her thing whipped right over and blew it.
Yeah, and then you got your little EMF reader out there.
Well,
and
she asked, is there something over here that you're attached to? She said yes. And then she said where, and it pointed at the chest. But there's a couple really old big Bibles on it and a whole bunch of other stuff. But there's 7, what do you call those little dolls, Grandma? Like the
Crochet
crochet
dresses,
dolls?
yeah.
In a roll on the back side of where it opens up. And then she got the rods. It said that that it was attached to one of those dolls. So I took the K2 meter, I believe it was, and went to one doll after the other. Got nothing. So then I said, "Well, show us, which doll you're attached to by lighting this up." Started from the other end, nothing, and then it went wham, 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 wham. And there's no power there. It was, just seconds earlier there was no power, and really lit up, and that was kind of cool.
Now, when you were doing the rods, generally, like, somebody, especially Shane, will be there, and, like, Shane will suggest a question, and then Lisa will ask the rods. How did that go for you this time there, Shaney?
Oh, he didn't want to respond to me at all. He was jerkish to me. And it actually frustrated me a little bit.
Yeah,
Remember this, guys. Remember how what he's saying.
And I don't know if Lisa was aware of it, but she kind of became like protective over the guy that she's talking to over me a little bit. That's how I felt. And it was. I know this sounds weird. I know all this was a new experience for us, but she's like, "Well, you yelled at him." I wanted to.
I'm to kick this guy's behind.
I did. She became like, like
Defensive.
Defensive.
almost kind of like she became down in the basement.
Honestly, I know what you're talking about because in retrospect, after leaving that situation, I realized
you were
why was I looking at it that way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Normally
And that's how what she was
Yeah.
starting to do. I don't think she really realized it at the time though, but I did, and I kind of switched
and it agitated
to Mom about it.
Yeah.
It was a little weird, and I almost felt like.
Excuse me.
Goes over me. He even got a spot, do we want to talk a little bit about our spirit box session upstairs?
Ronnie says, "Eel the doll," but yeah, you gotta love the dolls.
Yeah, Ronnie knows the
She
doll we're
loves
talking
the
about.
dolls.
Yeah.
We're gonna see if we can
Yeah.
send that to you.
I'm gonna frame it for you. Get one of the big canvas.
Just send it in the mail to her.
Yeah.
No, just the doll itself.
Yeah, just the,
Yeah.
that too. We can do that.
But
Yeah.
you gotta put one of those little mini speakers with the recording things on there.
It'd be like Ronnie.
So we went upstairs and we attempted to do a spirit box session. And I forget who was on it, but nobody thought they were really getting anything.
You talking about upstairs?
Upstairs.
We started off with just without headphones.
Yeah, without headphones.
I don't think I actually.
And a couple words came through, but we couldn't hear them without the
Right,
headphones. So
yeah.
that's why maybe it was you that did or was it Tom?
I'm the one that did it originally.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you put the headphones on after that.
But it was kind of interesting during that. You guys didn't get anything on the spirit box.
No.
But as you were asking questions, I noticed that far away, this was responding
Blinking like
to your questions.
Yeah.
Even some parts where it was beeping. So I went over there and was watching it, and like, you guys would ask a question, nothing would come through the spirit box, but you're like, are you here? And this would be like, beep.
It would light up, yeah.
You know, and like, it was responding to you elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and was watching that for
I
quite
took
a
the
while.
TikTok live and moved over to that
Yeah.
actually because we were getting more responses
Yeah.
off of that than you were on the spirit
Which
box.
you should probably know too, that you were also watching this that was facing.
Oh yeah,
8 feet
you would
away from
see
that.
some. So this will light up, and if it's a good,
If it's a harder
Vibration,
stomp or
it'll
vibration, it'll
be-
light all the way up like that.
yeah,
But
and
it's
you
actually
could
a really
see
cool tool.
the
You guys,
footsteps coming towards it on that sometimes. And
Really?
it would like,
Yeah. So
I
whatever
didn't
was
know that.
interacting with that, this was tracking.
mm-hmm,
I did not know that.
and
That's
seemed
cool.
to be responding to you guys.
Yeah.
to the spirit
the
box.
spirit
Ah,
box,
okay, that's
45
pretty
feet
neat.
away.
Yeah.
I like that. That's cool.
So let's see. We get anything else before we?
Upstairs.
We got a little bit of cat ball.
A little bit.
A lot?
upstairs.
Downstairs, oh.
Got a lot downstairs. The one we had on the back table by the Ontario knife collection. Lisa and I and Mom were talking, and all of a sudden this thing just started. Oh no, it wasn't just me and Lisa. The ball starts going off. It was the first time that I noticed anyway that night that cat ball or spirit ball, whatever, was going off. It started doing it, but stopped for a second, hit it again. So I got the camera out. I was recording. We was on the other camera too. I mean, you may be significant. It's right in front of the Ontario Knife Collection, or you know, the company's been in business since 1800s, and now they're
is
closed.
a display
Or
that was
closing.
also stored at a location that we were getting activity from too. That same display is the one at Simeon
Yeah.
Robbins,
Yep.
where the cat ball
Yeah,
was
we
going
did get
off in
that,
front of
yeah.
it too.
And right there outside that door.
Actually, a lot of the
light
stuff in there, not all of it, but came from there. They had moved it because
Really?
they wanted
Yeah.
to display it there
I
for
didn't
more
know
space.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
the Simeon Robbins house are going to try to make it look historically.
Yeah, you talk about the
Which
upstairs
the
hallway,
spook-
all
the-
those
the-
things. Oh,
The
okay.
entity in
Mhm.
Simeon
Which we're gonna
Robbins
be doing
will like,
again.
because that
Yeah.
expressed to us that's what it wanted.
Mhm.
Is it wanted
Wanted
it to look more like a
homey
house.
and-
than
That's
that.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, question for Chet, and I wish Tom, is Tom watching?
Not on here.
No,
anyways,
I
not-
thought he was going to mic up tonight.
What the heck, Tom?
Where you at, Tom?
But did you, when you worked with Grandma Lisa or Chrissy, did you get anything?
I was only ever with. I wasn't ever by
Me and you
myself.
worked together. No, I know, but like I know when you and I were together, we got nothing.
No.
And were you with and Shane together without Lisa, Grandma, or Chrissy at any point?
No. I
No.
was.
Did you get
with
anything
Chrissy
without-
for a little bit?
No, and I was
female
with,
present?
Tom for a while too.
Yeah, you and Tom were sitting upstairs like an hour.
Yeah, we started just talking because nothing was.
Yeah, I came up there and these guys are just chit chatting, just like general conversation. Yeah, I caught a 14-inch pipe one time. You know?
These
so
some
nothing
maybe
without.
42-inch.
Yeah,
Ain't no way it was that big. Really?
The biggest one.
Yeah.
Jeez. Nice.
Because
Anyway.
it didn't dawn on me till just now. Like, if I wasn't with you, if I was with Hunter, or when I went upstairs with Shane and Tom, like, we got nothing.
No.
Yeah, now that I think about it, everything that I saw that happened
Was with women.
with
With a
woman.
female present. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. I'd like to
And I
find
know
out from
Tom told me he
but-
didn't get a lot of personal, anything.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So, Mom, you were, well, we'll get to yours because her, I think, most
Ties into
interesting
ours.
K2
Ties into the
ours.
end of ours. Yeah.
So, it's getting later in the evening. I don't know where Christine disappeared.
I went down to the basement by myself.
Yeah, I know where you went, but I don't know
Okay.
why. Because
I
we
just-
were,
We were out there.
we were upstairs
why.
together.
Yeah, and then you and I went
I
outside.
was having an
Not
affair with
yet.
a ghost.
that
So she went in the basement before
before we
went
left.
outside? You do it.
Yeah, she was down there.
Us three were
What were we
upstairs
doing then?
together.
We listened to some Marvin Gaye down
Yeah.
there.
No, we were upstairs together.
Let's get it on.
And then we were talking about like, oh, we'll go outside, and then like Chrissy was just gone.
Yeah.
Because when I
Yeah,
came
what
down
were
to
we
go
doing?
outside, we were investigating the
Yeah,
three of
but
us.
when did I don't remember her taking off.
Me neither.
That's weird.
I
Tell
do
us the truth,
remember
Chrissy. Did
separating
that
from
thing
you,
call
but-
to you?
No,
Did
but
you
I
feel
just
drawn?
I
Oh,
did feel
gee.
I did
I think she
feel
did.
I did feel like I might get something in the basement.
Yeah.
And that's why
'Cause
I
you
was
just-
like, I'm
you
going
left-
to the basement now.
You left without telling us,
Yeah.
and then we were like,
But that's
oh,
nothing new.
no.
No, but
And then I like FaceTimed
FaceTimed
Ronnie, and I was like, okay, do you want to? Because I thought it would be neat for her to ask questions remotely and see if we got any responses that way, because we've never done that. But
That's not a bad
she was at the store, and she's like, well, I'll call you back in like 5 minutes, and I was like, okay. And then she ended up not being able to call back because we were doing the spirit box and
Yeah.
stuff. But anyway, so I was like, okay, so I'm just sitting there by myself, and I turned all the lights off, and I'm sitting in the dark. And like I'm getting readings on my like EMF reader, but I just went down there because
Yeah, the only way I knew you were down there is because we were going. We weren't outside
Shane-
yet.
No.
We were going.
Oh, I sent you a
called-
message.
Huh.
I did send you a message that said I'm hearing some things down
Afterwards,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you when we walked by the basement to go outside. I heard voices in the basement, and I was like, "Are you
Oh.
down there?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah."
And
yeah.
Ronnie just said, I did say in the basement near the stairs.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So she was in the basement?
Well, she just said, I did say in the basement near the stairs. So maybe.
Oh.
Oh,
something
she
near
might
the
have said that
stairs.
when I was doing the walkthrough with her.
Oh.
She might have said something.
Yeah.
And
So we
you
went
mentioned
outside.
that you thought you heard like a voice or something coming down the basement stairs.
It was her.
Well, when I came down the stairs, I know it wasn't her because she was sitting far on the other side of the
Oh.
basement. When I had came down, I thought I had heard like a little bit of shuffling over there too, and like a little bit. It sounded like a female, like a little.
oh, okay, well
Really?
remember that. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So,
she has. I don't
I'm not
think
going to tell you
she
which
did
part,
see
but
the video.
later on in
She
the
hasn't seen the video.
no, she
No,
did.
she went
She
to
went
bed
to
that
bed.
night. We
Later
went
on in
to
that
bed.
spirit box session,
Any video.
when we went upstairs, right? The one this is the first part. That REM pod and whatever else was going off like crazy.
In the basement.
Yeah.
It was just going up.
During that end, that second spirit box session, or maybe it was the end of the first one, we were talking about something, and you could hear Lance and I were talking about, hey, we think the girl is over there.
Oh.
Remember that at the other end?
We got a voice on the video.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah,
a woman's voice in the
It
basement.
said what?
Right at
First
she
they
came back,
said-
we
it was
couldn't.
kinda
well,
weird.
we couldn't hear what it
Yeah,
said.
but
Chris,
should tell
we'll
the
get to that in
spirit
a
box
second.
thing
We'll
first,
oh,
and then
go
I
in
got
chronological.
that.
So you heard a woman in the basement, and Shane heard jingling in the basement.
Yeah, when I was setting up the camera in the basement. Yeah.
like
why?
keys or chains.
Yeah.
Keys and change combo. It wasn't quite as heavy as just
Mhm.
keys, but
Where he heard the jingling was where I was.
yeah,
asked
Yeah.
you
to
should know
sit
too.
later.
Yep.
That,
Yeah.
that was later where it said he was. Well, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So we
Lisa
go
heard
outside.
the voice. Could you tell what it said?
I couldn't know because it was just. I knew it was like a female voice, but it sounded like a younger voice.
Okay. Yeah.
But I couldn't. It was like
She's
faint,
got
and,
to see that video now.
and
Yeah.
it was just like, oh.
So
You
the
know.
voice we heard,
give
we
you some
think,
confirmation
came
on
from that way.
It's
It was
on the
definitely a
video.
younger woman's.
Yep.
So
And we think we know who it was. So Hunter and I came back in. We went downstairs and joined Chrissy, who has been sitting in the basement for an extended period of time now.
Well, I did come
Shane
down
came down first.
Yeah,
for a little bit.
came
down.
Yeah,
You went
you
to
said
go
she
get
was
the
down there, but then when I
headphones.
went down there was no lights. So
No,
I'm just
she's
sitting here.
just sitting in the
I
dark.
think I'm talking to myself.
Yeah,
maybe
with
too,
nothing.
Or maybe talking out.
Yeah.
And then I see that with this little thing on the thing. At first, I thought she was a spook. You know, and then she goes, "Hi." Like, oh.
Like, oh, Chrissy.
And to Ronnie's question, she said, "Was there activity there?"
Oh,
so
yeah.
by the stairs, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
Ronnie
yeah.
will
Oh,
let
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Just for a note for Ronnie, I kind of told you the story a little bit over Messenger afterwards, but this is like
Yeah,
what happened.
and we're gonna post that video, some clips of it, soon. So we came down. We didn't get much initially, except you were when you're sitting in the dark by yourself, and it is weird watching the video too.
I
We
got
thought-
yeah,
that's what I was gonna say.
yeah, EMF readings though before
But,
Yeah, she was getting it when I came.
when
in, too.
he came down.
You were talking a little weird before we came down too, because we were watching the video and we thought you were still on the phone with Ronnie
Yeah.
for a bit, because like you have a ghost
It made it
voice.
sound like you were talking to
Yeah,
a
like
person.
when Chrissy, and if you've watched any of our investigation videos,
We
when
all
Chrissy's
kinda have
talking
that
to a
voice.
ghost, she has a ghost voice, and like
More like she's speaking to a
like
child.
your therapy voice. Like you go into this like higher register, are you here with us?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's like that's just your ghost voice, and like you said, we all have one apparently.
Yeah.
Like, but you were conversing differently then too. Like we
I
thought you were
actually,
still talking.
when we were
about
watching it, I said, "Who's she talking to?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it
It
wasn't.
sounded like you were interacting
yeah.
in a conversation.
And then yeah, you want to talk about your EMFs right before we came down?
I mean, it just, I got some spikes, like when I would say, like, if you're here, could you please, like, you know, spike this.
You also remember you had it on the ground,
On the-
the concrete
Yeah, I had it
dirt
on the
ground.
concrete
That's-
ground. It wasn't like near any wiring.
No.
It wasn't on a wooden floor. It was on a cement basement floor. So, and I
it
was
was
just
sporadic. It wasn't like a,
yeah,
it
it
wasn't
wasn't
consistent.
consistent. It would just spike up, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, could you get that up to 10? Could you, like, I was watching the numbers, like the readings on it. Like, could you get it up to 10? And it was kind of, that's when I was having the conversation. When you're hearing that,
Yeah.
as I was saying things, like it would react, and that's kind of like I was kind of having a conversation through the responses.
Yeah.
But,
But it, like we said, it was just odd because it wasn't your ghost voice. It was like your conversation.
I thought you were on the
Yeah.
phone with Ronnie.
Yeah. Because you were a minute ago.
Yeah.
You know, and then you guys hung up and you just continued to talk like you were. I don't know. It was
Like
weird.
buddy?
It was
It
weird for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. More familiar
Yep.
than normal. Than your.
Maybe you were,
I'm a
you just didn't know.
therapist.
You were jumped and, you know.
Maybe. So we came down and we started a spirit box.
Yeah.
and I have the headphones on. I'm sitting. When you go into this basement, first off, there's a bunch of molds, like ceramic molds, that you'd pour and then fire, for like ceramics or whatever. And they're huge molds sitting all over. So I sat on one of the big molds against the wall, and I'm sitting here like this with the headphones on, and you guys were on the other end of the basement, or
No,
where?
it
At
started
first
off
we
right
were
in front
right
of
in
you.
Okay.
front of you.
Yeah.
So
And we started to get, the first thing I started to get was, can you hear me? And we were like, yes, we can hear you.
when he says that, I'm saying this because I'm hearing it.
Oh
in the
yeah, for the rest of
headphones.
this, yeah,
He's
we'll
not.
relay, whoever is on the spirit box can't hear what we're saying.
And obviously
I'm
can't
just
see it
saying
either.
whatever I'm
Then they
hearing
say
over the
whatever.
spirit box.
So when we say he said, it's coming through
Yeah.
whoever.
Maybe I should know too. When I went down and Chrissy was down there, I went to the other end of the basement.
Mm-hmm.
The motion sensor went off. We noticed on the camera, by the way, those 2 times I wasn't in range.
It's
Oh.
not him that says that.
Because these guys, to set it off, had to go several more feet
Yeah.
ahead of
Keep in mind, it's at the end of the basement.
and that was where you ended up your
Yes.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she gets, can you hear me? And we're like, yes, we can hear you. And then, can you see me? And so we started to try to pinpoint, like, are you here? And it would say no. And we were using our flashlight. Are you on this side? And it said yes.
And we're like, where are you in the back against
Yeah.
the wall? And it was like, yes.
So I walk back there and I ask, are you here? And you say,
feet under.
feet below.
Yeah, feet below.
Which was interesting because we're like in a basement, you know, so we're like, oh, are you
Basement.
A dirt floor
A
basement.
deceased
Yeah.
person who's probably buried somewhere.
And then, I think it was around then,
Yeah.
Is that when I started?
to hear the
No,
name.
no. When was that?
May was.
Well,
No,
when
no, no.
was
That
this?
was when we were on the other
When
side.
was the smell though?
Oh, that's
Oh.
right.
I forgot
I
about
walked back
that.
there. It says feet below, so Hunter comes back.
Yeah.
And when he came back, you started to.
I started to smell. Okay, now we're in a damp, musty basement that
Stanky.
smells. It's pretty dingy smelling.
It smells basically.
Dungy's a good term for it.
Dirt,
But
dirt
it's this-
floor, old
no,
basement.
it smells musty and wet and dirty and just.
Hello from Florida. Hello from New York.
So I'm sitting there and I'm smelling this dingy basement, and all of a sudden I start
Thanks for
smelling.
liking the live.
I start smelling like this really, really delicious buttercream frosting scent, like vanilla buttercream frosting, and I'm like, what is going on? Because I love buttercream frosting. Like anybody who knows me, that's like my every year for my birthday, my mom used to get me a cake with
thought it
Homemade.
just like a doorbell. It sounded like it just went ding dong.
I heard it, but it was
I heard
very
it
light.
too.
Did somebody have something played on their phones?
No.
No.
Um,
But
Are you
so
hearing
I,
those?
yeah.
I smell this delicious buttercream frosting, and I'm just,
You can't
I
come in.
said it out loud because I'm just like that's just bizarre. Like, why does
Yeah.
it smell so good suddenly? And then about a minute later, it kind of just went away, and it smelled like basement again.
Well, let Lance say
Yeah.
this part.
It went away because Hunter walked over to see if he could smell it.
I have a really strong sense of smell.
And as soon as he got close to you, he was like, "It's old basement." You were like, "It's just old basement again now."
Yeah, literally within like 5 seconds.
Yeah, in other words, it seemed like, again, that when any male approached you, when this guy was talking to you, he got a little...
And you're going to see, if you watch the videos later on, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
To
And then eventually, we got lots of stuff. We'll post the video, but eventually it got us and Chrissy to go in the back where it said it was feet below.
Well, yeah, we asked it because it was like every time we went over there,
Well, you
it
asked-
wouldn't give us the answers. We kept like messing with her in some type of way or whatever.
You said
so.
something like, "Do you want the girl to come
Yes.
back?
Do you
here?
want this
Do you
woman
want her?"
to come back there? And it said yes.
Just spit
like
my drink.
immediately.
So ignore that.
So we switched spots. You went and sat there. You have the headphones on. I think that's when you heard Meg. And we were like, "Who's?" And it gave Hunter and I the same vibe that Shane got earlier. We were an inconvenience to him.
Yep.
Like it
we're
was
in its
answering
way
our
for getting to
questions
you.
just because we kept asking them.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
then I also heard "I love you" after
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Well, we
It
said.
didn't say Meg with a question mark,
I don't
like
think
it was
I don't
asking
think so,
her if she
no.
was Meg.
I
I
think
think it was just making a statement.
Yeah.
It sounded like.
at
Yeah,
first.
we asked, "What do you want with this?" Because we kept calling you the woman, because it seemed to think you were somebody else, and it said, "I love you," and we were like, "You love her?" And it says, "Yes." And then it told it. I think it was after that. It said, "Move."
Oh, that's when
yeah.
it got
And
threatening.
we were like, "Okay," so we take a few steps
Or
back.
it said like back. I think it actually said like back up.
Back up.
Move or
Well,
something.
that was in a second.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, when it said the next, I actually started laughing during this part because I knew how you guys were going to react.
Right.
But then I heard, like, "I'll move you." Was
Yes.
that
Thank
like
you,
it was
Dark,
kind
for
of
the
like it was kind of
paranormal,
like
for the
move.
follow.
And then how did you respond when it said move?
It said back up.
Back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we backed up a few feet, and then we said, "Okay, we'll go here," and it was like
When we
more.
said, "Is this far enough?"
Oh, and it said no,
Yeah.
and we said, "Well, we're not going to go back any further," and then you hear, "I'll move you."
Yeah.
And I just started.
And Hunter
yeah.
was the Hunter. By this time, he had us together, you know, because I did that thing that you kind of complained
This
about
little-
that I do when I start to get frustrated.
Yeah.
And Hunter
Yeah.
goes, and he was like, "Listen, be respectful. Like, you're not going to move us. You know, we're not going to leave her by herself down here." And then something clattered in the basement, like it
To the right
moved
back.
On the other
something
side.
further back in
Yeah.
the basement.
Sorry, I didn't get close.
So we turned and we're beginning to walk back there, further away from you. And Hunter goes, "This is a distraction." Nope. And he came back and he was like, "No."
So yeah,
Because
the last stayed
after
over
we
there,
had
checked it
said,
out.
"We're not going to go further away from where you were,"
I'll
it makes a
move you,
noise
and then he
far
makes
away.
a big noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And almost got us to go over there until we realized. So I
Yes.
came back. Lance actually went to check it out, and
Found nothing.
nothing. You know, and it's a big open spot. If something moved or was knocked over.
And while I was sitting
Sorry,
over
I'm hearing
there,
noises.
I also that's when I got touched again.
And
Something
as soon as we backed up,
something touched my butt,
Her butt.
and also
Her
like,
southern accent came
apparently
out.
I said butt when I'm like down.
She
in the
literally says,
basement,
"Something
butt,
just touched
and
my
my
butt."
back.
My
It touched
back.
my back too.
Bubba.
Yeah,
And then
bubba.
also I got this weird. This was a little bit later, but I got this weird vibrating feeling on my nose. It felt like this weird I don't even know how to explain it. Like if something was lightly just tapping my nose like super
Yeah.
fast,
Any-
and I've
any
never
blood
had
juices
that
give you a little
before.
boost?
yeah.
But it was just super weird, and it was.
And I think it was around this time too that the REM pod on the other side of the room, where you heard the voice come from,
Yep.
and where Ronnie said she felt something, the REM pod started to go crazy. Beep beep beep.
Oh yeah,
It was
It
like,
had
by the
been
way,
going on
it
for
wasn't-
a while.
you guys were in there. It
periodically.
was going off a lot that you guys didn't even know.
yeah, we didn't. None of us heard it. You know how like there was times you kept pointing to it and I couldn't hear it. We were talking, you couldn't even hear it, but you could hear it on the camera.
Yeah.
But it wasn't consistent
And
either when
see.
it was going off. It was like something would either do it really loud, get really close to it, it was like messing to trying to figure out different tones and everything else you can do.
But the mail started to get, it was very, I love you, and it wanted you to stay, it wanted us to go away, and it would answer our questions occasionally, but it almost sounded annoyed with us.
Yeah.
Well, that's around the time I quit hearing answers, really,
Yeah.
I think.
Well, you quit hearing everything with Hunter's recording on his camera, and all of a sudden you get blurry, like something is in between.
Like there's almost like a stagnant mist or fog. It's right between
Like
the.
it's focused, it's
Yeah,
trying to
and
focus
I actually
on
had
it.
that
Camera was
recorded.
literally trying to focus on something that was much.
I have
farther
that
in
footage.
front.
I'll try to trim that down and upload it to TikTok or Facebook.
And that's when I went over and I put my hand on you, and then the blurry moved over to the post.
Yeah, behind him.
Uh,
You know.
And then once I came over and touched you, it quit
Well-
answering questions.
Well, remember, right when it turned over to the post, it went off of her, and then it was trying to focus on something over there, and it would not focus the screen at all.
Yeah.
The entire screen
Oh,
was
that's
blurry.
right. You had to restart.
Yeah, I literally had to restart it, clean my screen off just in case,
Mhm.
and then work back up again.
But once I put my hand on your shoulder, it quit responding. So we took a break. We went outside. We're telling these guys all about it. We're excited to go back down. And when we finally went back down, we decided
You
that
were gonna get on that.
I'll get on the spirit
And I'm
box.
supposed to ask the
And-
questions.
Yeah.
Vulgar language
And
incoming.
this is where I started in retrospect when you said that Lisa was being like protective of the spirit. This in retrospect afterwards I looked and I realized that I was doing the same thing, and it's funny that you mentioned that because
Right.
like I remember like we'll explain what's and then you'll kind of see it, but like Lance puts on the headphones.
Yeah. Well,
And-
before I even get them on, I heard like "go away" or something like
Or
that.
something was, yeah.
So he
So I put 'em
puts
on
on the
all the way.
headphones, and what did you hear?
Like Hunter said, it's a vulgar language alert, but I hear very clearly over multiple stations, "You bitch, who are you?"
And
Like
then I-
that,
Like-
not.
And keep in mind, if you haven't already kind of figured this out, we kind of started putting two and together. We think whatever this was acting like he was more aggressive and dominant than he actually was.
Than he
And-
could be,
Than he,
yeah.
well,
We also think that he was
in reality.
He seemed to have a
obsessive.
draw to women, but he was
Yeah.
very.
he wanted to speak. He could talk the talk, but he couldn't walk the walk type of vibe. You know what I
Because
mean?
he's a ghost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
But so he hears that, so I say, do you want me to wear the headphones or something along that line? And you heard okay.
yeah,
So I was like, so I remember turning to you and I'm like, well, should I take them or not?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
yeah.
And this is where I started to get protective. And like, you were like, oh, well, I think it was saying that to you. And I'm like, how dare would that ghost say that to me? Like, he's nice to me and he loves me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
in my head, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
like,
and you
we
see what
all-
I'm talking
you know.
about. It's just like it's getting the girls somehow
Yeah.
at the same time bossing them around and pushing us away.
But I
That's
didn't
what I was about to
realize
say,
the
I
whole
forgot.
time after that when we were asking questions and like Lance was like, oh well, it was probably mad at you because I put my hand on yours, and I'm like, no, I think it's a different ghost that's mean, and that
Yeah.
ghost was nice,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Well, we forgot to.
yeah,
we forgot-
defending
We
it.
forgot to mention the first
That
part when
and
she was
women
down
syndrome.
there. That whatever this
Then-
was constantly trying to tell us to stop talking and to not listen to it. Like it just wanted to listen to her,
Yeah,
and we were like, it
like
was
like Shane said, we were an
Like, stop.
inconvenience to it.
yeah,
We were
then-
an annoyance.
About necessity for him to communicate in
Yeah.
some ways, but at the same time aggravated that
Yeah.
you're even existing.
Yeah, it was
We're
very
getting
odd.
kind of long, so we'll
Yeah.
summarize some of it. You heard more "I love yous."
Yeah.
And then we love you.
That's what
you
I
heard
heard.
we
Well,
love
the-
you.
The
when I
second
was
time
listening
when
to
Chrissy
them-
heard "I love you," I was like, "Well, why do you love her?" And they said, "Because we want to."
Yes.
Yeah, which was odd.
Yeah.
And then there was another point, and I can't remember who was on the spirit box, but it was like, how do you know her? Or like, how, and it was they knew me like whatever from a different time. That's when I was on the spirit box.
Lance had the thought that maybe whatever this guy was had what'd you say? Where they think there's somebody else, but there's
had some kind of disturbance.
Yeah,
where he would
see a girl
on this Meg, and then because I went upstairs to see if you could get more responses if I wasn't there.
Yeah,
and Mom was getting answers on a K2.
Yeah, I was talking to Betty.
Yeah.
And to ascertain that, I'd say, would you like to talk to me? And it spikes up. And will you tell me your name? It spikes up. And then I would go through the alphabet, and she stopped me on B. So then I start naming B words, names, and she said Betty.
B words.
And she was 31. She had a 10-year-old daughter. And she used to work there. And the cat ball would react to those same questions. So Lance comes up and he asks Betty a question.
She tells me this, and I was like, Betty, did somebody call you Meg? And it goes up into the orange. And I said, was this guy nice to you? Nothing. Said, was he cruel? Orange.
See, if anybody's seen the Netflix show You, this would be like the ghost version of him.
Yeah, I think whatever this Meg person was, and the Historical Society said they're going to look into what they can.
They're looking at that folder, that specific folder. It was a 1937 Franklinville News.
Mm-hmm.
It said he had something about him in that folder.
Yeah.
I think
they're going to review it.
Guy became obsessed with a real woman named Meg. And whatever happened to Meg, who knows? But then at some point he decided
he was
Betty
infatuated with
was Meg.
Yeah,
and maybe others.
And maybe others. And he thought Christine was Meg. Yeah. And he loves Meg, and anybody else close to her is a problem.
Yep.
And is in the way.
It makes you wonder what was under the ground. When he said feet under, was it him?
Probably all the past Megs.
Or a whole bunch of Megs.
And then it actually tried to deliberately scare us away. Mm-hmm. I think just because Hunter's on the spirit box, and he hears he's coming.
Oh, yeah.
And I say, who's coming?
And I hear Satan.
And I was like, okay.
Okay.
You know, like
he's trying his best to scare you guys.
Keep in mind, let me tell you again. Anybody who's on the spirit, we can't hear or see whoever's talking to us. We have our blindfolders on.
But we started to get everybody but Chrissy only heard the man, pretty much. You heard the woman.
I heard her.
And Jen. She heard a Jen, too.
Bit,
something about Jen.
A Jen. Yeah. Not a Jen.
But
Jen.
Hunter and I would hear a woman as well.
Yeah.
Who seemed kind of distressed.
Kind of like she was in the background.
Yeah,
too.
like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you, you know?
Yeah.
And it would coincide with the rim pod going on. I think the rim pod was her trying to.
Yeah, I think.
That's when I was down there when Lisa was.
We think that she was down there that whole time.
We
think that guy was scaring her away. She's usually on the other end trying to get our attention over there. So we need to watch that other camera that's right behind her.
We should say too that that's when we heard that voice. I don't know if it was just when Lisa came down or what, but she was over there somewhere.
Yeah,
Lisa, I think just
there
came
was
down.
like a 3-syllable or word sentence, and then what was it she said?
Chris goes, "What was that?" And we hear a me.
Yeah. You think you heard something audible in the basement, and you ask like, "Did you hear that? What was that?" And she answers you.
Yes, and that part is clear. You can from us,
I can even hear it.
From us sitting on the couch, we can hear me in a younger woman's voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we'll try to clip that and get it up on Facebook,
when Lisa
TikTok too.
Was on the spirit box, and you guys go upstairs, which I didn't even know you guys left. I just opened my eyes. I have the headphones on, and I'm like it's just Lisa, and I'm like, where did everybody go? Yeah, you guys went upstairs.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second, am I here by myself? But then
because Lisa's sitting in the dark, you can't see her, so you take them off. You know.
I got up, and she did the spirit box for a little bit, and that REM pod across the room was like, it was almost like it was trying to get like my attention, like come over here, and I'm like, well, what do you want? I'm like, The weird thing was, and obviously I'm not saying that somebody was buried there, but there was a shovel and some dirt over in that corner, and it was kind
there
of
a shovel?
weird.
Oh,
But
if
yeah.
I would have seen the
Remember
shovel, we might have did a little digging.
We forgot we heard all the voices.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. But the guy also, anytime we went to inspect the REM pod, the guy would say, "Stop, don't."
Yeah.
Like he didn't want us to be interact with
Well,
her.
at least that you could have
Oh.
talked
I think he
directly to
told-
the woman.
Yeah.
I think at one
See
point
what
when
she
we
wanted.
were
He
on
wouldn't
the
allow her
it
to,
told
which
me
is
not
why
to
she
go
went to
over
the
there,
other
too.
end.
Yeah,
And every
but-
time
yeah, I
we went
told
over
you
there to
not
try
to
to
go
talk
over
to
there
her,
as well.
it would tell us to stop.
Yeah, he
Come
was
back,
too
whatever.
strong and too dominant to let her really.
But something odd that Lisa Hunter and I got that you did not get at all is I was on the Spirit. I think I heard it first because I was on it first. And these guys, I didn't even realize they were watching the video. You guys thought I was talking to you. But I heard it was 5 or more voices just at the same time, all trying to talk really fast, trying to, so I actually say, slow down. And you guys are like, oh, are we asking too many questions?
Yeah,
But
I thought it was talking to us.
like so many at once that you just couldn't pick out, like it was overwhelming.
Yeah, so the guy took a second break and they all trying to get through.
No, but the part we didn't mention, because right before Lance got on, we were talking about to this woman that saying, hey, he can't do this and this and that, we can move on or whatever. I don't remember what we were saying.
Yeah.
I think us saying that encouraged whoever was still there to try to reach out to us, and which is why we heard all these different voices at the same time.
And you got the same thing.
And I think
yeah.
like Mom just kind of was saying, they were waiting for an opportunity when this guy wasn't dominating everything.
Yeah. And coincidentally, that's when he started, slowing down what he was saying.
And it makes sense that it went with Lance.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
not her.
I
Yeah.
was hearing
Well, it did
the
it with
other
me right
voices.
after.
I
Yeah,
just
the
couldn't.
guy.
Couldn't make them
They
out.
were so muffled.
Did
I
you
couldn't
too?
understand what they were
I didn't
saying.
know
Yeah.
Lisa.
No, I didn't hear.
Yeah,
So I did.
yeah.
You did.
Because when
yeah.
I came down the basement later, you were on it, and you were like, "There's so many, I can't make out what they're saying."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but she couldn't understand what they were saying.
No, neither
She
could I.
heard
Because
them.
they were just talking
Because
Well, I
over
could
each other.
it's
hear
literally
them,
like
I
all
just
of us
couldn't
talking at the
understand
same time at the same voice level.
Yeah.
No one's going to be able to understand what they're saying.
No,
But-
like they,
So Lisa
like
had
Shane
that
said,
same experience on the.
Yeah.
just for a second. But yeah, it was. I wouldn't even know. Like I said, except I came down and you were kind of describing what I had heard. You were like, "There's a bunch of them just talking over each other. I can't tell what they're saying."
Yeah.
And that's what Hunter had and I had.
I mean, I did hear women too,
Yeah.
and like different.
Yeah, but I think Shane's right. I think when he was conversing with you, he was dominating that. And then when he was probably with you,
Yeah.
the other ones are all trying to get their point across.
Yeah.
But, so we'll have to put up that video soon.
We got a lot of stuff to
We got a lot of stuff to go through.
I did put one clip of the cat ball going off on the first floor on there.
Well, that's on
TikTok
Facebook and TikTok right now for you guys both to go
Yeah,
watch.
we're gonna put it on the shorts on YouTube.
Already did.
Okay.
Well.
The website, SpiritHunters.group,
Yep.
GhostlyChronicles.com, Bill Robinson, Ghost Revisited 1 through 6.
50
25
cents. We're upping the price for every
25
book.
last time.
Every book Bill publishes.
But with that being said, Lisa,
Happy hunting.
thank you guys for watching. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Hello and welcome. What, you tap you? She's like.
Is that on record?
They're all going. We wanna.
We ready to
Chrissy's
start?
got face TikTok too, so
Face TikTok.
face TikTok, face talk.
Oh man, that face talk.
That face talk.
Alright, we ready?